Marius, welcome to the Commerce Talks podcast. We met last week in Dubai. I was under the impression that we were meeting because of a podcast recording, but we were just meeting for talking about Tradeling and the business going on in Dubai. But I was able to convince you to come to this podcast. Before I tell something wrong, please introduce yourself and Tradeling.
Well, first of all, thank you, Alex, for having me on your show. My name is Marius Ciavola, and I'm the CEO of Tradeling. Tradeling is set to become the largest and most dominant B2B marketplace in the Middle East and North Africa.
And how did it come? How did you end up leading the biggest marketplace in this region, which is from my impression, I gathered in Dubai last week, most likely one of the most booming region, especially for B2B material in the world.
Yes, absolutely. That is because, in Dubai or the UAE, if you like, has always been that global hub connecting the East with the West, with many resources made available, for trade to take place, or the free zones, the ports, the trade shows, and modern customs and airports, a lot more. So, we believe that the future of trade is digital, and that future is actually also now. So, the way we want to shape the future is by building this digital ecosystem that is going to be beautifully designed and simple to use, just like in what you would expect in the B2C world. So we're not really reinventing the wheel when it comes to B2B, but we have the opportunity to give our customers what they never thought they needed or could have. And being in Dubai, gives us that opportunity because we're able to connect a vast network of potential buyers and sellers to a one-stop shop digital platform that facilitates the discovery and the cross-border transactions end to end.
And can you go into a bit more detail here? So who is exactly buying, and what have been the buying opportunities or the places where this person would have bought stuff before?
Yeah, the opportunities are massive. Firstly, if we take a look at the macroeconomic environment at the moment, right? So you have approximately $1 trillion worth of trade that flows through the region. And right now, we put ourselves with a few other players in this space. We make up less than 1% of this trade. And according to certain studies, within the next 4 to 5 years, B2B e-commerce will probably reach around 4 to 5%. That's around $40 to $50 billion. Now, we cater for all types of businesses. From the micro businesses, the SMEs, the large enterprises, as well as the traders, but all supported with this fully digitalized procurement, if you like, logistics and financial services ecosystem. Now, B2B is so broad, and if we had to categorize our focus areas, we're more leaning towards a retail-focused marketplace rather than a manufacturing-focused marketplace. And the retail, we cater for anybody who would like to buy anything that they would like to resell, essentially, right? And we've managed to acquire so many sellers from all over the world. We have 1.7 million SKUs across 14 different categories. Food and beverage is one of our top categories, followed by consumer electronics and home and products, and we also have health and wellness products. So the product selection is pretty vast, and we cater for so many different types of retail shops and businesses that need to buy their products on a wholesale basis, for them perhaps even to consume, right, in large quantities.
And let's go into the customer journey of such a product. I'm on your homepage now, and there's like an advertisement for a Lenovo ThinkPad Generation 4. Total price here is 2,340 dirhams. and which is fairly below the normal retail price. And I can add it to cart with a minimum quantity of one. So even I, as a B2C customer, it feels for me, even I, as a B2C customer can buy it. So it's not necessarily needed to be a retailer here to buy like more than one piece, because like an electronic stores would most likely buy, I don't know, 10 out of this laptops in order to resell it locally. How does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. That's because we also have a minimum order value, right? So you may be setting up your office and you need this laptop, but you may also need a screen, and you may need a printer, and you may need a few other things to set up your office, right? So we're not going to restrict you to just buy to buy a large quantity, but there is a minimum order value that would cater for typically businesses, right? But as you scroll and browse through the platform, you'd see that there are products that, the minimum order quantity could be in thousands, for example. And you'd also have tier pricing, right? So the more quantity you need, the less the unit cost is going to be. And what we've managed to do on the platform is create the capability of negotiating, right? And like in the offline world, right? Businesses typically negotiate. They don't accept the first price. So the capability we've created is that you can negotiate with the seller seamlessly on the platform. You have the price. You want to give a counter offer. The seller can accept or give you another price. And this can keep on going back and forth until either the seller or the buyer accepts the last offer, and the order would be placed. Another thing you would not find, for example, in other platforms is a trade-in services. Let's say you're setting up an office and you'd like to buy laptops or buy new laptops for your team. And let's say you've got 20, 50 laptops you'd like to upgrade. We have this trade-in service where we take back the laptops that are used, and rather than them going to the landfill, right, we take them back. We have channels to liquidate them offline, and you get a discount on the new laptops that you're purchasing. So there's a number of things that we've managed to bring to the platform in with this kind of digital experience that would save a lot of time and effort when it comes to buying for your business.
What was harder? Was it harder to acquire a seller, or was it harder to get buyers on the platform?
I think it's always the case that it would be harder to acquire customers than sellers, because sellers already have the appetite to sell, right? And there aren't that many channels, when you think about it, of how else can they increase their market reach, especially when we're talking about cross-border, right? Typically, what people would do, they travel, they go to a trade show, and they'd meet people in person. And if it is a manufacturer or a brand, they try to they try to partner with a distributor, and then they're limited to that channel that distributor has. Going digital gives the opportunity to tap into a much bigger population, a much bigger spread of customers across the region, not in one particular country, for example, right? So across the entire Middle East and North Africa. So it really helps when it comes to acquiring customers. Then the customer acquisition cost for a manufacturer or a brand by going digital is far much cheaper than the other channels that they may use or they're accustomed to.
What kind of online services or offline service are you replacing on the seller side or on the buyer side? So if I were thinking about being a food and beverage retailer, small one, mom and pop store in Dubai. So before Tradeling, I most likely had my local connections to some other sellers or so, where I got my special products from, or I went to a bigger market or so where I bought my product. So who are you competing with?
What we are geared up for is to solve four main problems. Firstly is the access to the global supply, right? Which today it is somewhat limited, right? You'd have to do that discovery by going through so many different websites and so many different channels. It could become, very time consuming, and you may not necessarily land on the product or the seller that you're looking for. The other problem we're solving is the way orders are being placed requires a lot of back and forth, right? So we want to address this inefficiency when it comes to purchasing. And then the way payments are being done. Yeah, every business is different. When it comes to businesses, even more so. So we've created so many easy payment options that that would cater for the different types of customers that we're catering for. And then there's the long delivery cycles, which we see especially in cross-border. And it takes weeks and weeks, and it is hardly the case that goods are delivered within the promise when it comes to cross-border B2B e-commerce. And these are some problems we're solving. So narrowing down our focus in order to make an impact, we thought that we needed to focus on two main areas. One is the comprehensive logistics solutions. And what we do is we help with consolidating the goods at origin. We help with the inspection and the registration. Many goods coming into the region, they need to be registered and certified. We do that seamlessly on the platform, and we do all the legwork that's needed, on behalf of the customer or the seller. And then there's the import and export on record services. If you would like to buy something into the region, you don't have the right licenses in place, you may find problems when the goods arrive at the port. We do that on your behalf seamlessly again on the platform, together with, of course, the freight and the fulfillment. We've got our own fulfillment center in the free zone and outside of the free zone. So here's where we're giving a service to the sellers now, where we're holding their goods in our fulfillment center. And when a customer is looking for products, when they know that they can receive the goods same day or next day, even if the price could be slightly higher, they often go for it, right? So here we give that kind of service and giving an advantage over other sellers, basically, who are keeping their goods in their country. And we also do the last mile delivery service. The last mile, making sure that the goods are being delivered within the time frame that we've promised our customers. The other area that we've focused a lot of our technology and efforts in is in the fintech side of things. As I've mentioned, we've created as many easy payment options as possible. Starting off with cash on delivery, it's still, when it comes to the smaller businesses, cash on delivery is still the preferred method of payment. But we do that in a very smart way. We've got our own cash deposit machines in our delivery stations, right? So the handling of the cash is done in a very seamless and efficient way. And then we've got a credit card and credit card installments recently. This is where it gives an opportunity or advantage for local customers to use our platform as opposed to an international platform. Because when they're paying on their credit card, they could have credit card payment installments where they would pay even up to 36 months, and in some cases, interest-free, with 14 or 16 different local banks. We've got the bank transfer, letter of credit, invoice discounting. But one area where we are really innovating on behalf of the customer and giving them what they never thought they needed is credit terms. We have integrated partnerships with a credit bureau, with an export and import insurance agency, where we're able to capture as much data as possible and feed it into our credit assessment engine. And we are able to give credit in a safe way to customers without them necessarily asking for it. So they wake up to a WhatsApp call, a message, or SMS letting them know that, hey, you've got credit on Tradeling, and you could go and buy your things without necessarily paying on checkout. And this really has an impact on, if you like, the lives of the people behind the businesses that we serve. And we see that the adoption of credit terms in B2B e-commerce is growing rapidly. If we look at just the first quarter of this year, around close to 20% of what we sold is through the credit terms that we've offered to our customers. We've given millions, tens of millions of dollars to hundreds of customers in the UAE over the past 2 years.
But those credit terms, just to stick with the credit terms, and I have a question on the free zone concept too. Those credit terms, you're working together, I guess, with like a local bank. So it's not money you need on your own balance sheet. It's rather something you can work a bank with.
Well, this working capital is a mix, right? We've got our own pool of funds that we use, but we've also partnered with a few fintech companies, digital banks as well, and a few other banks in the country where they're all participating and supporting our efforts in extending credit to our customers in this very safe manner.
Okay, got it. And the free zone thing, we had a podcast guest here explaining a bit about the free zone, but can you elaborate on this a bit? Where do you need the free zone for, and why do you have like warehouse capabilities within the free zone and outside the free zone?
Yes. In particular, Dubai is a re-export market as well. Around 60% of what's imported is actually re-exported, right, to the neighboring countries or even beyond that. So it's a great hub. We've got, I think, more than 30% of free zones in the world are in the MENA region. So it helps a lot when a brand or a manufacturer would like to buy products and distribute them across the region. It serves them well by bringing the goods into a free zone, hold them there, and then break bulk that quantity to the various destinations that they need to serve. And then the transportation could be either by air or by road. So it really helps sellers, to avoid paying tax, import tax at the time of landing in the country. And because it may not necessarily be the last destination, basically.
Okay, got it. But though the warehouses outside of the free zones then serve the purpose of like helping customers in Dubai getting their stuff. So that's what it is for.
Correct. That is, yeah. So the free zone, the warehouse in the free zone is mostly for importation of goods and re-export. And then the warehouse outside of the free zone is mostly to accommodate local to local business to business transactions.
Okay, got it. And you said you have like millions of credit out there helping your customer. That sounds like a huge business. So it's not just a startup anymore. It serves like tens of thousands of buyers and sellers. Can you tell us some numbers, something that gives us a better understanding of how big Tradeling actually is?
Yes, of course. Since our launch, the platform was received really well by the users. We see that we have close to 500,000 unique visits to our platform every single month, and we have one of the highest conversion rates to registration. Today, we have 200,000 registered users on the platform. And what we see is that when customers come and they register, and after their few purchases, we see that both the retention as well as the average spend on the platform increases over time as they get a taste of the efficiency on buying on our platform. They tend to stay. And especially when it comes to the value added services, right? So if they've got the credit and they have a really good delivery experience, they don't necessarily need to look outside of our platform, because we've got the selection and we couple it with the service. What we see happening is some buyers actually bring their sellers to the platform, either because they want to benefit from the credit terms that otherwise the seller wouldn't be providing them with. And what we also see is sellers bring their customers on the platform, right? That's because, they take advantage of the distribution network we have. And yet again, also the credit terms that we offer, we take that headache, if you like, away from the seller. They can focus on their business, whilst we serve the customers in this digital format.
Okay, get it, I understand it. And you're talking about services a lot, like for the buyer and the seller side. So usually when we are talking with like B2C marketplace concepts, the triangle of success is a vast assortment, like all products you can think of, quick delivery, and best prices. If I listen to what you're saying, you say the services you're providing could be the credit service or the next day delivery service, because you have it in your warehouse, are outranking the traditional factors we know from B2C. So services are more important than prices, just to sum it up in one phrase. Would you agree?
I think it's a combination of all. Think of it as a flywheel. You need the product selection. With more product selection, you increase competitiveness, and with more competitiveness, you increase the customer engagement, right? And purchases. But you've got to have, you cannot just give good credit and good delivery service but not have the product selection. And likewise, you cannot have the product selection on its own without the services that need to come with it. So these components need to marry really well within the platform. And that's what we tend to do really well, right? Where everything is connected. And so the product selection is super important. But as a generous platform, it is very hard to focus on just a few categories, right? And really be good at each of the categories. So what we did, we started off with food and beverage. That's one of our fastest growing category. We've got consumer electronics as well. We see that there's a massive selection for that category, and many others. But we tend to go to categories that does not necessarily need customization, does not necessarily need any specialty, if you like, in terms of handling. So what we build as a product on the platform, we try to do it that caters for as many customers as possible across as many categories as possible, across as many products as possible. This is why automotive we have, but we don't focus on it, because the experience on the platform for automotive would have to be somewhat different, right? For it to be a real seamless experience. You might want to have the capability to select the brand, the model of the car, for example, and the year of manufacture and all of those things. But that would only cater for automotive, not so much for other products across the different categories. So this is why it's a challenge when you operate a generalist platform. We try to cater for as many customers as possible across many categories.
How do you manage growth these days? So I understand that a huge assortment brings like more competition, and therefore it creates a much more compelling product positioning for the marketplace. But you've told me that you're in the initial phase. You've grown like 40% from month to month, and like and you're still sticking with like 100% plus growth rate on a yearly basis. So how do you manage growth on your platform?
Well, growth is one of our biggest good problems, if you like. But one way how we go about this is, as a startup, we've also got to say no to so many things, so that the few things we say yes to, we try and do them as well as we can. And that's how we this is the approach we have taken. So it's not so much how many products we have. It's not so much how many registered users we have. It is the engagement of the users with the platform that we focus on, the usage of the platform. And the metrics that we focus on is, how many customers have returned, how has the average order spend increased, how many has the repeat buy of the customers has increased. These are the metrics that we focus a lot more. So it's a bit more quality versus quantity, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I totally understand. But is there like a growth limit? So you have reached already like a certain base, which is very impressive. But could you still manage to grow like another like 100% this year and next year and the year after, or is the growth flattening now?
No, the growth is still on the rise. But what we tend to do is enable our sellers to perform and own their business on the platform, right? So the features that we create is in a way that is scalable. Think of, for example, an RFQ, the request for quotation. They don't come to us as the marketplace operator. We don't quote to our customers. It is the sellers who are quoting to the customers. And so we focus on the enablement of the customers and the sellers to interact and collaborate online, right? And that's how we see the growth happening. As we build this critical mass of buyers and sellers on the platform, it is the features, the product that we have as the platform that fosters that growth. And retention, of course, is one of our metrics that we focus a lot on.
One of the things B2C customers and B2B customers are afraid of is fraud. So in this fraud, you see definitely on Amazon marketplaces or other marketplaces is brought into the game because sellers are playing the platform. They are like they provide products or provide product data and say, okay, you can buy it from me, but eventually it's not delivered, quality is bad, return mechanisms are not working. So how much of your team's resources do you focus on this fraud prevention, vetting sellers, going after like fraudulent product listings? Is it a topic you're invested in?
It is, absolutely, because ultimately, if a customer gets a bad experience because a seller did not fulfill their order or did not fulfill the order to the expectations of the customer, it is our platform that is perceived as not being, meeting those expectations. So there's a very robust onboarding process and verification of the sellers that really own the product that they say that they are listing, and they've got to show documents at the time that they come on board. And what we also do to give a little bit more peace of mind to our customers, as I've mentioned, is the product inspection and certification, right? We've partnered with SGS, which is a global company that does this product inspection, with as little as $75. One could have their goods that they're buying from a seller outside of the country inspected against the criteria that they provide, and they will receive the right certification of the quality that they're expecting. So, and ultimately, there's also the right contracts in place.
Who's providing this? You are providing this, or like an external third party?
So we enable it on the platform with an integrated partnership with SGS. With SGS is a company that is a worldwide company that provides product inspections and certification services.
And okay, got it. So this is a thing you're definitely taking care of, because this is something that would hold me back from buying stuff at AliExpress or Alibaba.com, because sometimes it's so hard to find out if this is what is behind the platform is really true, or if it's just like a fake listing. So your core business model is most probably earning like a commission, or do you have, like, I don't know, retail media income or other income that provides like the main revenue streams for your platform?
So there are mainly two or three, if you like, revenue streams. One is, of course, in the marketplace, we take a commission, take rates that range between, I believe, 5% and 9%. And they're also published on the platform on every transaction. And then there is also markup or margins that we make on the products that we take a risk on. So we buy certain products, we keep them in our fulfillment center, and of course, we sell them at a profit. And but we're ensuring that we're still competitive, of course. And then there's the value-added services. Today, we do not really focus on monetizing on these services. Most of these services are actually offered at either for free or even just at cost. But for us, the goal is mostly to facilitate and foster trade in a digital format, and was making sure, of course, that we're building a sustainable business that will the business will have a future as well, a sustainable future.
Okay, maybe let's talk about like two or three like macroeconomic things here, as we were just like digesting the very fresh impressions from Dubai last week. So my feeling was that Dubai is booming because of so many like people from Eastern Europe or China moving to Dubai. Even like the second Palm is now reconstructed. The World project. The islands are with like some private real estate developers now. So, and my understanding is that must be like a big big push for many businesses you are working with. What's your view on Dubai as a marketplace today?
Well, I think it's not just Dubai, but it's the entire MENA region, right? We see that although global trade is said to be growing at around 3% this year on the previous year, Dubai or the UAE in particular had a fantastic 2022. I think they've announced that international trade had reached record high, and of around 14% year on year, reaching around above $2 trillion dirhams in 2022. And we see that also happening in Saudi Arabia, right? We see that the imports in 2021, for example, has increased around 11% from 2020. I think we see all of these countries in the MENA region where trade is actually on the increase and booming. Yes.
Okay, and what does it mean like for the geographical expansion for Tradeling? You're saying it's Africa and Middle East, but what does it mean exactly? Is it like Egypt, Saudi, and Dubai, like 90% of the business, or is really Kuwait and Bahrain and Qatar and Oman, are they really contributing to the platform?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of digital, right? Because we don't necessarily have to be present in each of these countries. Today, we serve Saudi Arabia, we serve Oman, we serve Bahrain, we serve all of the neighboring countries remotely. So though we are based as an office and warehouses in Dubai, but we serve all of the MENA region. We've sold tens of containers to Egypt, for example, and in this case, I remember these products are actually A4 paper that is actually produced in the UAE and exported to Egypt. So we intend to grow our footprint within the region.
Sorry, paper is produced in the UAE?
Yes.
How do they produce it where there's no wood?
There's a couple of paper mills, and this is one of the products that sells a lot on our platform. And we probably, we move many containers a month of this paper. So there's a lot of trade happening intra-region, right? And that doesn't necessarily have to be all coming outside of the region, So, UAE to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia to UAE and to Egypt. There's a lot of trade crosses borders within the region itself.
Okay, then let's stick with the paper containers here. So what prevents the company that is buying, like, I don't know, in Cairo, 10 containers of paper every month from the company in the UAE who is producing it, reaching out to the paper mill directly, trying to save the margin you are earning?
Yeah, because as I said, it serves both the buyer and the seller, right? So for the seller, they just focus on producing paper. And what we do, we look after the supply chain, right? We look after the logistics. We look after the payment. They just focus on producing the paper. And perhaps this customer they did not have before, and perhaps they started off that discovery through the RFQ, and the seller has quoted for the paper on the platform itself to the customer, and maybe they could have negotiated online as well. So yes, they can take the business offline, but it's all about creating value on the platform for them to stay, right? And that's what where we put our focus.
Okay, totally makes sense. But my understanding is, and I think this is a good example, is when the turnover, like on a monthly basis, is like, I don't know, surpassing $100,000, then it makes sense to reach out and to try to establish some of the risk mitigation tools directly. But you say Tradeling is like big enough as a platform that it doesn't make sense to go this route from a seller or buyer perspective.
Yeah, it serves them well to do this because, again, of all the value-added services. So it's the discovery, it's the value-added services that keep the customer to use the platform for buying these products, and think of it as a seller, right? The paper mill in Dubai, for example, right? We've brought them customers that they didn't have before. We got them orders that they didn't have before. They had to increase their production of paper. We are feeding them with more orders and more business. Essentially, why would they want to take take that business offline? They would, on the contrary, what they do is they take more ownership of their business on the platform, and it becomes another channel for them to sell. Okay. Rather than trying to take it offline, where they would require to have people, the inefficiencies of offline, and the communication that it takes a lot of time, basically, and effort, and a headcount at the end of the day.
Okay, got it. Then my last question is: so you've said you cannot focus like on all categories at the same time. You've just mentioned the automotive, the parts industry, and there's like many other trade areas which are like super specialized, like manufacturing, construction material, and many more. Would you say there's like space for more Tradelings, like in different areas in the same region, or would you expect that you can consume all, or you can aggregate, consolidate all this area on one platform in the future?
Well, we have a very big ambition to be the largest digital ecosystem for any B2B transaction in the region. However, as I said earlier, we make up less than 1% of all of the trade that flows through the MENA region. So there's a lot of room for many more players, especially when it comes to specialization, right? in manufacturing or building and construction materials or machinery and pharmaceuticals. There's a lot of room for businesses to take to become more digital, basically. And I would encourage any business, any manufacturing company, to consider having their own platform if need be, when they specialize in certain products, especially when it comes to customization. The future of trade is digital, so I think there's a lot of room for a lot more players to come into this space and navigate a new way of doing business.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. So I think all the ones that are not yet doing business in the region, MENA region, especially Dubai or Saudi, they gotta think like a big interest and taste now how it can go there. Marius, thank you for your time. Thank you for all the enlightening information about like building such a big and interesting marketplace in the region, and see you soon.